My wife says she can replace me any time. Most people replace their phones more often than that. Guess I'm built to last, or maybe she's just lazy about upgrades. The words hung in the air like smoke from a cheap cigarette, bitter and impossible to ignore. Aubree had just announced to our entire friend group at Murphy's Bar that I was easily replaceable and she could do so much better. 23 people heard it. I counted. When your wife publicly humiliates you, you remember details like that. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Come on, Leon, she's just joking around, said Miles, my best friend and fellow drone technician. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, avoiding eye contact. Even he knew this wasn't a joke. I'm Leon Draper, 40 years old, and I fix commercial drones for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays well. Well enough to fund my wife's boutique salon, her designer clothes, and her increasingly expensive nights out with her fitness trainer. Yeah, you heard that right. Fitness trainer. Aubree sat across from me, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the bar's neon light. She wore a dress that cost more than most people's rent, paid for with money I earned crawling around construction sites calibrating survey drones. She was laughing with her best friend Tammy, completely oblivious to the fact that she'd just declared war on her own marriage. I mean it, though, Aubree continued, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she wanted everyone to pay attention. Leon's sweet and all, but a girl has options these days. Better options. The table went quiet. Miles cleared his throat. Maya, one of Aubree's salon stylists, looked mortified. Even Tammy seemed uncomfortable, though she'd probably encouraged this whole performance in the first place. I took a long sip of my beer and studied my wife's face. She was serious. This wasn't alcohol talking or some misguided attempt at humor. This was Aubree Draper, age 38, announcing to the world that her husband was disposable. You know what, honey? I said, setting down my beer with deliberate care. Let's test that theory. Let's see just how replaceable I really am. The entire bar seemed to lean in. Aubree's smile faltered for just a second before returning full force. What do you mean? She asked. I mean, let's do it right now. Tonight. You go ahead and replace me. I'll wait. The silence was deafening. Someone dropped a pool cue in the back room. The jukebox switched songs, filling the void with some country ballad about lost love. How appropriate. Aubree's phone buzzed on the table. A text message flashed on the screen before she could grab it. I only caught a glimpse, but it was enough. Not leaving my girl for you, babe. Just having fun. My girl. Not Aubree. Someone else was Corbin's girl, and my wife was just entertainment. Aubree snatched the phone, but her face had gone pale. She'd seen me read it. We stared at each other across the table while our friends pretended to study their drinks. You don't mean that, she said finally. Try me. I stood up, threw a 20 on the table, and walked out of Murphy's Bar. Behind me, I heard Tammy whisper something about men and their egos. Maya said something about being sorry. Miles called my name, but I kept walking. The Portland night air was crisp and clean, a sharp contrast to the suffocating atmosphere I'd just left. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found what I was looking for. Davidson and Associates, Family Law. Tomorrow morning, I'd make some calls. Tonight, I'd plan. Because here's the thing about being replaceable. It works both ways. And I'd been underestimated my entire life. By teachers who thought I wasn't college material. By bosses who thought technical skills didn't require intelligence. By a wife who thought I was too boring, too predictable, too grateful to ever fight back. They were all about to learn something new about Leon Draper. I was irreplaceable, but Aubree? Well, that remained to be seen. The next morning, I sat in my drone workshop with a cup of coffee and a legal pad, making lists. I've always been methodical. It's what makes me good at my job, and apparently what made my wife think I was boring. Knowledge is power, they say. Turns out owning the deed is even better. Most people don't read the fine print when they're in love. I do. And I read everything. When Aubree wanted to open her salon 3 years ago, I didn't just hand her money like some lovesick fool. I bought the building. Aubree's salon exists because I own the real estate, and my wife pays rent to a shell company I established. She never bothered to ask about the details. Too busy picking out paint colors and hiring staff. I flipped through the paperwork Davidson and Associates had prepared. Separation agreement, asset division, business dissolution, all perfectly legal and devastatingly thorough. The beauty was in the timing. I could serve papers whenever I wanted, but I didn't have to. I could let Aubree dig herself deeper first. My phone buzzed. A text from Miles. Dude, are you okay? Aubree's been calling everyone looking for you. I ignored it and drove to the salon. Aubree's place occupied the ground floor of a converted Victorian in the trendy Pearl District. Exposed brick walls, vintage mirrors, the kind of industrial chic design that cost a fortune to look casual. The sign out front read Aubree's in elegant script lettering. Soon it might need updating. I walked in like I owned the place, because I did. Leon? Maya looked up from sweeping hair clippings. She was a good kid, maybe 25, with purple streaks in her dark hair and loyalty that Aubree didn't deserve. What are you doing here? Looking for my wife. She's in the back office. But Leon, about last night? Don't worry about it, Maya. Sometimes people show you who they really are. We should thank them for the honesty. Aubree emerged from the office holding a stack of appointment cards. She looked surprised to see me, then guilty, then defiant. The emotional journey played out across her face like a silent movie. We need to talk, she said. Actually, we need to handle some business first. I pulled out a manila envelope and set it on the reception desk. This is your new rental agreement. My what? Maya stopped sweeping. Two clients in the styling chairs turned to watch. Tammy, who'd been getting her roots done, craned her neck for a better view. Your rental agreement. For the salon. I've been letting you operate here without a formal lease, but my accountant says that's not good business practice. So here's your contract. Standard commercial terms, first month's rent due immediately. Aubree opened the envelope with shaking hands. Her face went through another emotional journey. Confusion, disbelief, rage, and finally fear. This says I owe you $3,000, right now. That's correct. Market rate for this location. Very reasonable, actually. The place across the street charges $4,000. But this is my salon. This is your business. The building belongs to Draper Properties, LLC, has since day one. You can check the deed if you'd like. It's public record. The silence stretched out like taffy. Maya had stopped pretending to sweep. The clients were openly staring now. Tammy's mouth hung open, revealing a mouthful of dental work. You can't do this, Aubree whispered. I'm not doing anything except formalizing our business relationship. You run a salon, I own real estate. Very simple, very legal. I turned to Maya. Don't worry, your job's secure. Good stylists are hard to find. Then I looked at Tammy. How's that color coming along? Maya does excellent work. I walked out of the salon feeling lighter than I had in months. Behind me, I heard Aubree's voice rise to a shriek, but I couldn't make out the words. Didn't need to. I could guess. My phone started buzzing before I reached the truck. Aubree calling over and over. I let it ring. That evening, Miles showed up at my workshop with a six-pack and a worried expression. What the hell are you doing, man? Having a beer with my friend? Want one? I mean with Aubree. She called me crying. Said you're trying to steal her business. Can't steal what was never hers. I handed him a bottle. Did she mention her fitness trainer? Miles looked uncomfortable. Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but his name's Corbin Lake, 29 years old, has an Instagram account with 50,000 followers, drives a red Jeep Wrangler. He's been training my wife 3 times a week for 8 months, very intensive sessions. Sometimes they run late into the evening. Leon? Did you know he parks behind the salon on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Maya mentioned it. Said she always has to ask him to move so she can take out the trash. Miles set down his beer without opening it. What are you going to do? I smiled and took a long drink. I'm going to let my wife replace me, just like she wanted. And then what? Then we'll see how good her upgrade really is. 3 weeks later, I was setting up my drone demonstration booth at the Pacific Northwest Fitness Expo when I spotted Corbin Lake posing for photos near the supplement vendors. He wore a tank top that showed off his arms and a smile that probably got him a lot of attention from married women looking for excitement. Perfect timing. I'd spent those 3 weeks doing research. Corbin wasn't just Aubree's trainer. He was a local fitness influencer trying to break into the big leagues. He live-streamed workouts, hawked protein powder, and promoted something called the Lake method of functional training. His Instagram showed him with different women every week, but never the same one twice. Except for Aubree. She'd appeared in his stories 6 times in the past month, always tagged as his dedicated client or fitness inspiration. The comments were telling, lots of fire emojis and suggestions about what kind of training they were really doing. My wife thought she was special. Corbin's followers saw her as this week's entertainment. The expo was crowded with fitness enthusiasts, supplement salespeople, and wannabe influencers. Perfect audience for what I had planned. I launched my demonstration drone, a high-end quadcopter equipped with a professional camera, and started my usual spiel about commercial applications. Surveying, inspection, mapping, photography. The small crowd around my booth seemed interested enough. Now, one of the most popular uses for drone technology is event coverage, I announced, piloting the drone higher. Sports, weddings, promotional videos. The aerial perspective adds drama to any situation. Through my controller's screen, I could see Corbin setting up for his live stream. He had a small crowd gathered around a workout mat, phone mounted on a tripod, ring light casting dramatic shadows. The man knew how to create content. I'd give him that. What he didn't know was that I'd been tracking his schedule for weeks. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. sharp, he did his Motivation Monday live stream. Except it was Wednesday, and this was a special Expo edition. I adjusted the drone's position and waited. Corbin started his routine, all dynamic movements and motivational shouting. His viewers were eating it up. The live comment count was climbing fast. He was in his element, performing for the camera and the crowd. That's when Aubree showed up. She wasn't supposed to be there. The expo was for fitness professionals and serious athletes, not salon owners looking for attention. But there she was, wearing workout clothes that cost more than most people's monthly gym membership, walking straight toward Corbin's setup. The reunion wasn't what she expected. "Babe, what are you doing here?" I heard Corbin's voice through my drone's audio pickup. He'd stopped mid-burpee, looking genuinely panicked. "I wanted to surprise you. I thought maybe I could be in your live stream?" The crowd around Corbin shifted uncomfortably. His phone was still recording, broadcasting this awkward moment to hundreds of viewers. I adjusted my drone's position for a better angle. "Aubree, we talked about this. You can't just show up. But I thought we had something special. You said I was different from your other clients." Oh, this was beautiful. My wife was having a public meltdown, and Corbin's carefully crafted influencer image was cracking in real time. The live comments were going crazy. Viewers were screenshotting everything. "Look, you're a great client, but I have a girlfriend, a real girlfriend. I thought you understood this was just business." Just business. I almost felt sorry for Aubree. Almost. She stood there in her expensive workout clothes, surrounded by Corbin's actual fans, realizing she'd been played. The humiliation was written all over her face, broadcast live to the internet. That's when Corbin noticed my drone. "Hey, who's flying that thing? This is a private live stream." I landed the drone smoothly and started packing up my equipment. The crowd around my booth had been watching the drama unfold on my controller screen, and several people were already pulling out their phones to record their own versions. "Excuse me." Corbin was jogging over, Aubree trailing behind him. "Were you recording us?" "Just demonstrating aerial photography capabilities. Very popular for fitness content, actually." He was close enough now that I could see the panic in his eyes. Social media influencers live and die by their image, and his had just taken a serious hit. A married woman publicly declaring her feelings, his awkward rejection, the whole messy scene. It was influencer suicide. "Delete that footage. Right now." "I'm sorry, what footage?" "This was a live demonstration. Everything streams directly to cloud storage for my clients to review." That was a lie, but Corbin didn't know that. Aubree had gone pale, finally understanding what had just happened. "Leon," she whispered, "what are you doing here?" "Working. Some of us have actual jobs, remember?" Corbin looked between us, putting the pieces together. "You're the husband. I prefer soon-to-be ex-husband, much more accurate. You set this up. I set up a drone demonstration. You two provided the entertainment." The crowd was growing now, drawn by the drama. Several people had their phones out, recording everything. In the age of social media, public meltdowns spread fast. Corbin lunged toward my equipment case, probably hoping to destroy evidence that didn't exist. I sidestepped easily. All those years of avoiding angry construction workers had given me decent reflexes. Wouldn't do that if I were you. Destruction of property, assault charges, very bad for the brand. He stopped, breathing hard, realizing he was surrounded by witnesses with cameras. "This isn't over," he said. "You're right. It's just getting started." I finished packing my equipment while Aubree and Corbin argued in harsh whispers. The expo crowd was already moving on, but the damage was done. Within hours, clips of their confrontation would be all over social media. Corbin's professional reputation would take a hit, and Aubree's fantasy of being the special woman in his life was gone. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Aubree call my name. I turned back to see her standing alone. Corbin had abandoned her to deal with his image crisis. "Why are you doing this to me?" "I'm not doing anything to you, Aubree. I'm just letting you replace me, remember? How's that working out?" I left her standing there in the middle of the fitness expo, surrounded by strangers and the wreckage of her upgrade fantasy. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Holy shit, Leon. It's all over Instagram already. Our fitness expo fail is trending." I smiled and headed home. The real fun was just beginning. Corbin made his first mistake 3 days after the Expo incident. He came to my workshop. I was calibrating a survey drone when I heard the Jeep's engine outside. Red Wrangler with custom rims and a sound system that probably cost more than most people's cars. The kind of vehicle that screamed, "I peaked in high school but refused to admit it." He walked into my workshop like he owned the place, all swagger and barely contained rage. The fitness expo had cost him 2 sponsorship deals and about 5,000 followers. His Lake Method brand was taking a serious hit. "We need to talk," he announced. "No, we really don't." I kept working on the drone, not bothering to look up. "You humiliated me, and Aubree. I demonstrated aerial photography equipment. You two humiliated yourselves." He moved closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. Corbin was bigger, younger, and definitely stronger. What he wasn't was smarter. "You think you're clever, old man? You think you can mess with me?" Now I looked up. "I think you're a small-time influencer who got caught playing games with a married woman. I think your brand is built on fake motivation and protein powder ads. And I think you're about to make another mistake." "Yeah? What's that?" "You're assuming I'm the same pushover your girlfriend married." That hit home. His face flushed red, and his hands clenched into fists. "She's not my girlfriend." "I know. That's what makes this so pathetic." He took another step forward, and I reached for my phone. "Smile, Corbin. We're live streaming." It was another lie, but he didn't know that. The threat of more public humiliation stopped him cold. Social media influencers are terrified of bad publicity. It's literally their kryptonite. "This isn't over," he said, backing toward the door. "You keep saying that. Maybe try some new material." He left, but not before kicking over a trash can and slamming my door hard enough to rattle the windows. Very mature, very professional. I gave him exactly 24 hours to cool down before implementing phase 2 of my plan. The next evening, I drove to Corbin's apartment complex with a bag of supplies and a head full of creative revenge ideas. He lived in one of those trendy developments that catered to young professionals. All exposed concrete and industrial lighting designed to look urban and edgy. His red Jeep sat in its assigned spot, gleaming under the parking lot lights. Corbin was predictable. Every night at 9 p.m., he went to the complex's fitness center for what he called his evening burn. It was part of his routine, part of his brand, and most importantly, it gave me 30 minutes to work. I'd spent the afternoon shopping for supplies, fine craft glitter and hot pink, the kind that gets into everything and never comes out. A dozen feeder rats from the pet store, all very much alive and very eager to explore new environments. And a spare key to a Jeep Wrangler, courtesy of a locksmith friend who asked no questions for the right price. The beauty of this plan was its simplicity. No permanent damage, no destruction of property, nothing illegal, just a harmless prank that would provide hours of entertainment and seriously damage Corbin's carefully maintained image. I opened the Jeep's doors and windows, then carefully distributed the glitter throughout the interior. Seats, dashboard, floor mats, air vents. Everywhere. The stuff was so fine it looked like pink fairy dust, coating every surface in a shimmering layer of humiliation. Then came the rats. I'd bought them from a reputable pet store, so they were healthy and well socialized. They weren't going to hurt anyone, but they were definitely going to cause chaos. I released them into the Jeep's interior and closed the doors, leaving the windows cracked for air circulation. Then I set up my camera. I'd positioned a small wireless camera across the parking lot, hidden behind a dumpster with a clear view of Corbin's parking spot. The battery would last for hours, and the footage would upload automatically to cloud storage. All I had to do was wait. Corbin emerged from the fitness center 45 minutes later, sweaty and pumped up from his workout. He was probably feeling good about himself, ready to post some motivational content about pushing through adversity. That feeling lasted about 10 seconds. He approached his Jeep and immediately noticed something was wrong. The interior looked sparkly. He moved closer, peering through the windows, trying to figure out what he was seeing. That's when the rats started moving. I couldn't hear his scream from across the parking lot, but I could see his mouth open and his body jerk backward. He stumbled, caught himself, and stared at his vehicle in horror. Pink glitter covered everything, and a dozen rats were exploring their temporary new home with obvious enthusiasm. They'd already chewed through his gym bag and were investigating his protein shake collection. Corbin pulled out his phone, probably to call the police, then stopped. What was he going to report? That someone had filled his car with glitter and pet store rats? No laws broken, no permanent damage, just an elaborate prank that would be impossible to explain without sounding ridiculous. He tried opening the driver's door, but the rats scattered in all directions, and a cloud of pink glitter puffed out like a glitter bomb explosion. His workout clothes were immediately covered in sparkles. I watched him dance around the parking lot, trying to shake off the glitter while avoiding the rats that had escaped. Other residents were coming out to see what the commotion was about, and several had their phones out, recording the spectacle. Within minutes, Corbin Lake, fitness influencer and self-proclaimed alpha male, was trending again. But not for the reasons he wanted. The video I'd captured was even better than I'd hoped. Corbin's reaction was priceless. The confusion, the horror, the desperate attempts to salvage his dignity while covered in pink sparkles and surrounded by confused rodents. I uploaded the footage to an anonymous account with the caption, "When your lifestyle brand meets reality, some glitter fail, your fitness influencer showered karma." It went viral in 6 hours. By morning, Corbin had lost 3 more sponsors and gained a new nickname, Glitter Boy. His carefully crafted image as a serious fitness professional was buried under an avalanche of memes and mockery. My phone rang around noon, Aubree crying. "Leon, please, you have to stop this. Corbin's career is ruined." "I didn't ruin anything. I just documented some interesting wildlife behavior." "This is destroying both of us." "That was kind of the point." "I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. Can't we work this out?" I looked around my workshop, at the life I'd built through hard work and careful planning. Then I thought about Aubree announcing to a bar full of people that I was replaceable. "You said you could do better, remember? So do better." I hung up and got back to work. There was still more revenge to plan, and I was just getting started. The Portland Rose Festival happens every June, turning the city into a celebration of everything local and proud. Food vendors, live music, craft booths, and thousands of people gathered in Tom McCall Waterfront Park for 3 days of community spirit. It was the perfect venue for my grand finale. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing, calling in favors, and making arrangements. Maya had agreed to help. She was tired of watching Aubree treat people badly and wanted to see some justice. Miles was reluctant, but loyal. Even Tammy had turned against Aubree after learning about the salon ownership situation. Funny how quickly friends disappear when the money runs out. Aubree's salon was struggling. Without my financial backing and with her reputation in shambles, she'd lost most of her clients. The rent I was charging was fair but substantial, and she was already 2 weeks behind on payments. Corbin had virtually disappeared from social media. The glitter incident had finished what the fitness expo started, and his influencer career was effectively over. He'd stopped returning Aubree's calls and had been seen around town with a college girl who didn't know about his recent humiliations. But they weren't done fighting, and neither was I. The festival's main stage was set up near the river, with a clear view from all directions. I'd arranged for a special drone demonstration as part of the technology showcase, a perfectly legitimate business presentation that would also serve as the final act of my revenge. I arrived early to set up my equipment. The festival was already crowded with families, couples, and groups of friends enjoying the sunshine and community atmosphere. Local news crews were interviewing vendors and performers. It was exactly the kind of public, well-documented event I needed. Maya texted me at noon. "They're here, both of them. Aubree looks desperate." I spotted them near the food trucks, arguing in harsh whispers. Aubree wore a sundress that probably cost more than she could afford, trying to maintain her image even as her world fell apart. Corbin looked uncomfortable, constantly checking his phone and scanning the crowd like he was expecting trouble. Smart man. He was. My demonstration was scheduled for 2 p.m., right when the crowd would be at its peak. I'd advertised it as a showcase of drone technology for local businesses, aerial photography, surveying, promotional videos. Several small business owners had shown genuine interest. What I hadn't advertised was the special message I'd prepared. At exactly 2 p.m., I launched my largest drone, a professional-grade hexacopter capable of carrying significant weight. The crowd gathered around my booth, watching as the drone climbed higher and higher until it was visible from across the entire festival grounds. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced through my wireless microphone, "drone technology has revolutionized how we communicate and share information. Today, I want to demonstrate one of the most impactful applications, aerial messaging." The drone reached its target altitude and hovered steady in the clear blue sky. Then, with the press of a button, it deployed a massive banner that unfurled beneath it like a flag. The message was simple, direct, and visible from half a mile away. "Some upgrades aren't worth the price. Leon Draper, Draper Drone Services." The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. People pointed and took pictures. Local news crews turned their cameras skyward. And somewhere in that crowd, my wife and her failed upgrade were learning what public humiliation really felt like. But I wasn't done. "Now, as many of you know," I continued, "my wife recently announced that she could replace me any time. She felt she deserved an upgrade. Well, Aubree, if you're out there, and I know you are, this one's for you. The drone began a slow, graceful flight pattern over the festival grounds, carrying its message directly over the food truck area where Aubree and Corbin were hiding. That's when Corbin made his final mistake. He came charging through the crowd, red-faced and furious, pushing past families and festival goers to reach my booth. "You snake! Bring that thing down right now." The crowd turned to watch this new drama unfold. Several people had their phones out, recording everything. The local news crews were practically salivating at the unexpected entertainment. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" I asked innocently. "You know exactly who I am. This is harassment. This is a business demonstration. That banner is advertising my drone services. Very effective, don't you think?" Aubree appeared at his shoulder, tears streaming down her face, her carefully applied makeup running in dark streaks. "Leon, please, stop this. Everyone's watching." "That's the point, honey. You wanted attention, right? You wanted everyone to know how unhappy you were with your boring, replaceable husband?" The crowd was eating this up. Someone shouted, "Is this better than Jerry Springer?" Another voice called out, "Team Leon." Corbin tried to grab my drone controller, but I stepped back easily. Miles and Maya materialized on either side of me, forming a protective barrier. "Don't even think about it," Miles warned. "There are cops everywhere, and about 50 people recording this." "You've destroyed my career," Corbin shouted. "My reputation is ruined." "Your reputation was built on lies and protein powder ads. I just helped people see the truth." "And what about my business?" Aubree sobbed. "What about everything we built together?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. The woman who'd promised to love and honor me, who'd taken my money and my trust and thrown them away for a chance at something she thought was better. "We didn't build anything together, Aubree. I built it. You just spent the money and took the credit." The crowd had grown to several hundred people now, forming a circle around our confrontation. The drone continued its lazy flight overhead, banners streaming in the breeze like a victory flag. "You want to know about upgrades?" I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the wireless microphone. "Here's what I learned. Some people think newer is always better. They trade in perfectly good things for shiny new models that promise more excitement, more status, more everything." Aubree was crying openly now, mascara running down her cheeks in dark rivers. "But here's the thing about upgrades. Sometimes you find out the new model has hidden defects. Sometimes you realize the original was exactly what you needed all along." I gestured toward Corbin, who was looking around desperately for an escape route. "How's that upgrade working out for you, honey? Is he everything you dreamed of? Is he taking care of you the way I did? Paying your bills? Supporting your dreams?" Corbin took a step back. "I never promised her anything. She knew what this was." The crowd gasped. Even in the middle of a public humiliation, he was throwing her under the bus. Aubree turned to stare at him, finally seeing what everyone else had known all along. He wasn't her Prince Charming or her ticket to a better life. He was just a selfish kid who'd used her for attention and discarded her when it became inconvenient. "You said I was special," she whispered. "You were convenient," he replied, then immediately looked like he regretted the honesty. The crowd turned ugly. Someone booed. Others started chanting "Team Leon" again. A few people threw festival napkins at Corbin, who was now backing toward the exit. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "I think we've seen enough. Some upgrades just aren't worth the price." I brought the drone down to thunderous applause. People were cheering, taking pictures, asking for my business card. The local news crews were interviewing random festival goers about what they'd witnessed. Aubree stood in the middle of it all, alone and abandoned, finally understanding what she'd thrown away. Corbin had disappeared into the crowd, probably already planning his escape from Portland. His influencer career was finished, his reputation destroyed, his carefully crafted image reduced to internet memes and public mockery. As for Aubree, she'd lost her business, her friends, her family's respect, and her marriage. All for a man who just publicly admitted she meant nothing to him. I packed up my equipment while people congratulated me and asked about drone services for their own businesses. Maya hugged me and said she was proud to know me. Miles clapped me on the shoulder and grinned. "So what now?" he asked. I looked around at the festival, at the families enjoying their day, at the life I'd built and nearly lost to someone else's selfishness. "Now I go home. I've got a business to run and a life to live." As I walked away from the festival grounds, I could hear Aubree calling my name one last time. I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. She'd wanted to replace me. Instead, she'd replaced herself, with nothing. And that, I thought, was exactly what she deserved.